Are you trying to manage change and do you need for it to go really well? Well, the best way is to utilize one of the change management models that are available. And there are two potential solutions that I'll recommend as we get towards the end of this video. If you've ever experienced change in an organization, you most likely had thoughts about how that change went. It either went really well, or maybe it was extremely painful. Most of that has to do with how somebody came along and managed change inside of the organization. In the 1940s, Lewin created Lewin's change management model. In this model, he theorized that change requires in 3 steps: unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. Unfreezing is the process of creating the motivation to change. The next step is actually doing the change itself and implementing the change. And then lastly, freezing, or putting in place a really solid process so that things can't be reverted back. A similar model to Lewin's change management model was the bridges transition model, where it starts with the current state, then there's a neutral zone, and then it ends with new beginnings. The one big challenge with both of these change management models is that it doesn't consider some of the most complex areas of change, which is the human factor, the human behavior that also has to come along with the change as well. If we consider how we go through change and what the human factors of change are, there's actually a model that could help us consider this a little bit better. The Kubler-Ross change curve. This change curve actually talks about the levels of change that we go through as individuals. One of the things that it talks a lot about are that there are stages of emotional states of change for any type of change that's implemented. You may find that people are shocked, in denial, frustrated, or depressed. You may want your team to go through these phases as quickly as possible, but it means that you have to first consider what their reaction might be and exactly how to help them with the change that's going to be implemented. In considering the human side of change, in 1995, Kotter came along and introduced his 8-step change management model for successful organizational change. This model takes into account the Kubler-Ross change curve and implements a change management strategy that actually helps teams move from their current state to the future state. Here are each one of the 8 steps. Number 1, create a sense of urgency. This means that as a leader, you need to explain to your teams why exactly this change is being implemented and what specifically is going to be done under which terms. The second one is forming a powerful coalition. A powerful coalition means that across the organization, you want to look for key people that are bought into the change and would support the change, and then use that coalition to help drive the change throughout the entire organization. Number 3 is creating a vision for the change. Creating a vision for the change really means focusing in on what the future state is going to look like so that people can start to see not just what the current state is, which they're living today, but more specifically, what it's going to look like whenever they get to the future destination and the change is implemented. Next, you want to communicate the vision. So many people don't do this step and communicate to their people. They're afraid of what's going to happen. Then the change gets implemented and people react. And then oftentimes leaders come back and say that they're surprised that people, didn't actually accept the specific change. With that, communicating actually helps people through the process of changing. And honestly, it'll give them an opportunity maybe to provide feedback ahead of the change being implemented so that you can consider other things that could be done to further support the change. The next level is to empower employees to act on the vision. This means that you want to put this in the hands of the people that are actually going to be impacted by the change. You as a leader don't want to be the only one who sees the vision and also, knows that this is going to be a better place for the organization to be. You want your employees to start to carry that forward as well. Number 6 is plan for short-term wins. Short-term wins are important because as the short-term wins happen, they're an opportunity for you to start spotlighting exactly why the vision is going to be more and more successful for the organization. Number 7 is that you want to consolidate the improvements that need to happen. And then lastly, you want to institutionalize the change. The last thing that you want to have happen is that once the change is in place, that people can actually revert back. The one thing to keep in mind is that the Kotter model requires strong leadership in order to succeed. It really focuses in on communication and motivation of people. And with that, you just really need a strong leadership team to help support the change with the team that's on site going through the change, or it will not be successful. The other really popular model for change is the ADKAR change management model. It's a popular model that really focuses in on 5 stages that are used to create and manage organizational change. The 5 stages are awareness of the need for change, the desire to participate in the change, the knowledge of how to make it happen, the ability to implement it with the right skills, and lastly, reinforcement to ensure that long-term success happens as well. Let's talk about each one of these stages a little bit more in depth. Awareness of the need for change is really similar to Kotter's need to explain the vision to your employees. This idea of having communication with people to explain to them more specifically what exactly they're going to need to go through, as well as why there's a need to move from the current state to whatever future state that you have for your vision for the change. You have to also help support creating desire for people wanting to change, explaining the pain in the current state that you're currently experiencing and why there is a need for change is absolutely paramount to ensuring that your team understands exactly why they need to move forward into the future state of change. Having the knowledge to make it happen is the next step, and it's the third step in the process. But many times people don't consider what knowledge people need to have to be able to go from the current state to the future state. What will make them most comfortable whenever they arrive in the future state is something that has to be considered by the team that's actually implementing the change. The ability to have the right skills is the 4th step in the process. And with this, you have to consider, does your team actually need new training? Are there other things that they need to be informed about to be able to move forward? And just consider the future state and what additional education they might need, or possibly even just information about what exactly is going to change and how things will be, and making sure that they are fully supported and have the right skills whenever they get to the future state. Lastly, reinforcing the change for long-term success is really all about making sure that you highlight things that have gone through the change, and also just making sure that you understand that people are going to go through some level of human change as well, and just making sure that you reinforce that with them and that you're there to support them. As you go to implement change in your organization, there are a few things that I would highly recommend as next steps. Number 1, I have a blog post that deals with organizational change and focuses a little bit more and provides a little bit more detail in reference to each one of the models mentioned here. Additionally, the John Kotter 8-step change management model, as well as the ADKAR model, both have books associated with them. You could easily pick up a copy of those books and get a better understanding. Links to both of these will be below this video. Additionally, if you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe below. Also, there are other videos on my channel, which will be available as this video ends. Thanks a lot for watching.